finds a picture of my mother and father with a Facebook frame which says Ek hi nara, ek hi naam, Jai Shri Ram.
So what's wrong with that?
So it's apparently a war cry, and that my parents are terrorists who support the demolition of a mosque in India. Sita Ma, is being wrongfully imprisoned. So that is why we are doing this. We're doing it because we believe that what we do is an act against injustice. So they said, in 2017, she posted a picture at the Berlin Holocaust Memorial. And in that photo, she said, this memorial casts a hollow reflection of past atrocities. That sentence as a pun, casts a hollow. So it's a pun on Holocaust, and that's anti-Semitic.
What?
The Jewish people never let go of what happened during the Holocaust. Every kid knows the story. Every child has read about it. We Indians, we Bharatiya people, we have to try twice as hard to be half as good. And we don't complain when we do that. But why should we be doing that?
Rashmi Samant ji, welcome to the podcast. It's so wonderful to have you on.
Namaste, Abhijit ji, and thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be on your podcast.
Thank you. So, we're going to talk about your journey in Oxford, the book that you've written, and the new book that's out right now.
Right now.
You just put it live on Twitter. So, for the first book we're going to talk about is A Hindu in Oxford. This is for the audience to see, and the link will be in the description below. So, what is this book about? You were in Oxford and you went through quite a journey over there. What was this? What happened there?
Well, Abhijit, I do believe that this book is the story of every Hindu who faces discrimination, but never uses discrimination as an excuse not to excel, and kind of retreats into a shell thinking, okay, it's okay that the world is unfair, but I'm going to work harder and, I'm going to come out of it, and kind of lives on and, moves on. But these stories never make it to the mainstream.
Right.
So it normalizes the fact that, it's okay for us to be treated badly. And then that is something I try to address in this book.
Okay.
The fact that it's not okay to treat Hindu students badly. It's not okay to stereotype Hindu Dharma. It's not okay to use all of these tropes, which have been ongoing since the 8th century. The first trope started with the first invasion. But ever since, there has been an accumulation of that. And the academia currently has been very adept at, giving form and, structure to those stereotypes. So it's just a real story that happened to me with facts, figures in the, current timeline in which they happened, for people to see that, this is what happens. And the narrative which is out there, the stories which are out there, that's not true. This is what happens, and things that happen are bad. And this is how we fight it. So that's kind of like my humble approach on things, and my effort, a small effort, like that squirrel, contributing to the Ram Setu, to ensure that, we do something about the kind of narrative which is so against us every step of the way.
So what was your experience in Oxford?
Well, Abhijit, I'm a small town girl. I don't come from big cities like Delhi, Mumbai. And I think one thing about small towns is you see the clear skies.
Yes.
It's beautiful. And it's often a misnomer that you don't have big dreams if you come from small towns, that your aspirations are tiny. And especially for a woman from a small town, your aspirations are just to get a basic degree, a marriage qualification, get married, and then move on. But I think that's a complete misnomer. I think small towns, you see clear skies, and you want to, reach as high as you can see. So your aspirations are huge. And I think we have enough small town success stories now to...
We do.
Reiterate the fact. Udupi is a temple town. Every 500 meters, you'll find a temple which has been doing Annadana for the past 1,000 years. So, altruism started in Udupi. And that's the kind of town I come from. I went to a very simple school, the kind of school nobody goes to Oxford from. And all my schooling was there. My pre-university was there. 11th and 12th was there. In fact, my undergraduate degree is also from there. But I had big dreams, and I aspired to study at the University of Oxford since I was a child. I thought, okay, I'm going to study at the best university in the world. And there's a small anecdote. My father gave me an Oxford dictionary when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, what's Oxford? Like, looked very fancy. He said, oh, like, it's this dictionary that a university takes out. It's ranked 1 in the world. It's in England. So I had this zid. Ki, you know, whatever it is, I'm going to go there. So it was this childhood kind of a zid that turned into a concentrated effort to kind of make it there. So it was a combination of all of that. And also, I think the reckless optimism that comes from a small town, that was also there. You won't believe it. When I filled up my forms, I literally had nobody to show my form to.
I see.
Like even today, when you're maybe filling up your electricity bills for the first time, or doing anything for the first time, first thing you do, call your mama up, call your dad up, call your brother up. Just ask if you're doing it right or wrong. Here I'm filling out an entire application and I have no clue if I'm filling it up right or if it's something they're looking for, or it's completely out of the blue and, you know, I'm out on my own. So it was one of those DIY homemade experiments that made it to the University of Oxford. So it was that. And I made it to Oxford. And I was very happy that I made it to Oxford. What were you studying there? So this is something people don't know. I'm a mechanical engineer with masters in renewable energy. So I was doing masters in energy, and this is a masters in engineering as well. So this was something I was doing, and my focus was green hydrogen alternatives for the future. So this was something I was actively pursuing at the University of Oxford. So this was what I was studying. I get there, you know, I'm happy, over the moon. It's like going back a couple of centuries. The streets are all baroque and nice, and except for the smartphone in your pocket, you feel like you're, I don't know, like a couple of centuries back. Just like those books that you grow up reading, where all of these things are talked about. It was also a little bit of a Harry Potter experience for me, because I think Harry Potter takes its inspiration out of all of that, and a lot of shooting happened there. So it was, as a Potterhead, it was quite acceptance from Hogwarts for me. So I was there. But I think 3 months on, the whole idea that I'm here and that I love this place, I think the honeymoon phase was getting over. And then you suddenly see things, right? You start seeing things for what they are, not for what you want them to be. So for the first 3 months, it was just what I wanted that place to be, the dream, the aspiration, the achievement. And then when that kind of started to subside, the veneer went off and I could really see things for what they were, the black and white. There's this very funny tour called the Uncomfortable Oxford Tour. I highly recommend you take it if you ever visit the University of Oxford. And it's put together by a bunch of former Oxford students who are called notorious now. Because I think the job that they do is really bring forward the true history of the university through that tour. And so I was given one of these passes. There's an Uncomfortable Oxford Tour, and, you know, I was like, okay, I mean, notorious things, might as well do something notorious. So I went on that tour, and that tour is an actual tour of how every brick at the University of Oxford owes itself to the blood money of former colonies. And that's not where the buck stops, Abhijit. It's terrible that this fact is not acknowledged, and the very people who oppressed the indigenous people, you know, communities across the world, are then vilified with their own blood money. So the academia itself toes a certain line where the crimes of the colonial past are whitewashed.
Oh, absolutely.
They are normalized. There are studies which say that the Bengal famine was caused because of the Hindu Mahasabha and not because of Winston Churchill's policies.
There are people who say that, studies and academic studies,
This is not people saying, these are studies which are funded by the very blood money of the former colonies. So the very people who died in making up that fortune, and that fortune is now being used to, you know, somehow vilify their sacrifices and vilify who they were and what happened to them, and give a story which reinforces colonialism. And not just that, it takes a step forward to enforce neo-colonialism in marketplaces as we see today. It's just not a matter of oh, bad things happened and you're not acknowledging it, acknowledge it. It's a matter of, there is an effect of those bad things today as well in the marketplace. Neo-colonialism is a thing, and that is really putting many people at a disadvantage. We Indians, we Bharatiya people, we have to try twice as hard to be half as good. And we don't complain when we do that. But why should we be doing that?
Yeah.
And our entire growth story, if you see now, be it the way our GDP is increasing or, the way our country is developing, we're having to try twice as hard to get half as far.
Yeah.
And that's because of these neo-colonial theories which reinforce a global market space, which puts us at an automatic disadvantage. So I could kind of start seeing the bigger, machinery behind it. So it was not just a ego thing ki, oh, my ancestors suffered and you're telling a terrible story about it now, but you're actively using it to make my and, my brethren's future, the prospects less enticing. So this was the whole premise that I could see. One of the first incidents was me walking to this library. You're literally living in the library, Abhijit. As a student at the University of Oxford, it's a very difficult course. You're living in the library and then you're trying to get food. So I was just trying to get food and go to the library, and I could see a Ganesha Murti. In the first few months of my phase, I perceived it as a sign of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, as them being accepting of the worldly diversity, and oh, they have a Ganesha Murti here, how wonderful. But then after the 3 months, I actually bothered to walk up to it and read the label. And the label said 13th century, lotus feet Ganesha brought in from India. So it was not a sense of appreciating diversity. It came from a sense of that superiority, that, oh, we looted you and here there's a trophy. So it was more from that sense. The intention was very wrong with which these things were being displayed, and then we know the rest of the history. So there's so much of it, and then once you see one thing, it's the only thing you can see everywhere. So every corner, every gully, you see things which remind you of that. What really tipped me off was seeing a statue of Cecil Rhodes on Oriel Street, which is one of the main streets.
Cecil Rhodes.
Cecil Rhodes, I mean, he was a terrible man.
Yeah.
And you are straight up putting a statue up there, and you have a scholarship by that name called the Rhodes Scholarship, which is supposed to be the most prestigious scholarship in the whole world. And if you take this up with them, they say, oh, but see, maybe it's blood money, but it's being used to do some good out there in the world. Excuse me, there are Oxford alumni dying to contribute money to the University of Oxford and have scholarships in their name. There was a guy, an African-American, I think, singer, Babbitt Stormzy, who wanted to donate money. And they said no. They straight up said no. There's an actual article about it, which I have quoted in the book. And then he went and gave the money to Cambridge. So, see, it's not like you don't have alternatives. You choose to glorify Rhodes. You choose to whitewash Rhodes by ensuring that his memory lives on, by ensuring that that money is being glorified as something positive out there. So it's not that you don't have any other option. You have more options. In fact, you have so many options that you're going to get in 10 times the money you currently have. So it's not a matter of whether you're going to run out of money. It's just the matter that you choose to do this. So that kind of completely tipped me off. And then around that time, the applications for the University of Oxford Student Union president came out. And I looked it up a little bit. I saw that, oh, the presidential election is an elaborate affair here. And the presidents, whatever statements they make, they hold a lot of diplomatic weightage. It turns up on the Washington Post as a byline, the New York Times as a byline, BBC as a timeline. So your statements do really matter. And even if I don't make it to presidency, the entire process is so enterprising that you're part of so many presidential debates. It's a very interactive kind of a thing. So it gives you a platform really to put out your views and everything. And I also realized there's been no Bharatiya president of the Oxford University Students' Union. So then I thought, might as well, combine all of these factors, use the platform to do something good. And I ran for president. This is literally, I landed in Oxford September 2020. I begin my course October 2020, and I run for president February 2021. Literally, I'm fresh on campus. And everyone who's running against me has been on campus for 2 years, 3 years. They've been doing a PhD. There were people who had run 5-6 times. Like, they've been running since their undergraduate days. Every year they've been unsuccessfully running, like never giving up on their presidential bid. So there were lots of people like that as well. And that was a kind of scenario in which I was. And incidentally, all of the people who were running against me were all men. They were all white. They were all European. So this was a huge factor. You unsee it a lot. I started seeing it later on, not when I was running. When I was running, I took it in my stride. And even during the entire presidential process, there was so much discrimination that was ongoing. But I didn't want to be that person who just keeps crying discrimination and tries to earn brownie points on the face of being a victim. That's not us, right? That's not the Bharatiya people. We don't do excuses. We do better. During the debates, so the question goes from each candidate, and then it ends at the last candidate, and then they shuffle the order. But the one question will go to every candidate. Conveniently, the question would skip me. They would keep asking me the question. And then some candidate would have to patronizingly say that, oh, Rashmi was skipped. So, it would take all of that for the question to come to me.
I see.
And it would happen over and over and over. And these videos are available online. You can clearly see the bias that the anchors have. You can clearly see them butchering my name deliberately. So we had this entire prep session before the debate where they had no hard time saying my name. I think no white person has a hard time saying my name. They say Rashmi. So it's Rashmi. They say Rashmi Samant. It's okay. And they got it right the first time. And there was a Polish guy, there was a Greek guy who all had very complicated names. And they were having a hard time getting it right. But they got it right in the prep session. And none of those names were butchered on air. And the one name which was simple, they got it right. It was butchered multiple times deliberately. Because I think every election is about that recall value. And if people don't remember who this candidate is or what her name is, how are they going to know who to vote for? So, see, all of this scheme was in play. But, I was out there saying, giving my message, saying, okay, we're going to pursue a policy of decolonization. You elect me, you bring me to power. I'm going to ensure we're going to do a kind of a review of our entire syllabus, and then we're going to make sure that we read the right history so that so many of the people who are currently also facing consequences stop doing that. And also, since it's a tiered structure of academia, what Oxford says, rest of the universities follow. Whatever happened in Oxford 2-3 years ago, I see that currently happening in JNU, DU. The same cues, the same campus culture, the same pronouns. I mean, we had to use pronouns way back in the day. Like, you couldn't introduce yourself just by it. You had to also say your pronouns. So I had to introduce myself as I'm Rashmi Samant and I use she, her pronouns. And then if I wouldn't do that, they would ask me to reintroduce. So it was a given that you have to bring out your pronouns and everything. And you see that becoming commonplace now in the past, couple of months in the other areas. In
JNU, etc.
In JNU, etc. and all this. But this was something that, so it's a trickle-down thing. So I knew that the impact on academia, on the review of syllabus was going to have far-reaching impact. That syllabus across the world would be affected by what precedent and what research goals the University of Oxford sets. So that was a whole thing, and that was my campaign. And I said, I get elected, all these statues are going to be gone the next day. So it was not just Cecil, there was Christopher Codrington, there was a whole list, and they were all going to be gone if, I was president. And the election happens. I'm being told that, Rashmi, you're just going to get one vote. The vote you give yourself. You're not going to get anything
Who was saying that?
All of my, circles and everything. The, kind of premature friend circle acquaintances I'd made in the first 3 months. So they were all saying all of these things. And then I'm like, okay, might as well. But I gave it my all. And the funny part, I think one more short anecdote. During one of the presidential debates, I was asked a question. Why do you pursue a policy of decolonization whilst colonization was a positive experience for the indigenous people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It brought development to them. It brought language, etiquette. They thought we were living like
savages, right?
Savages.
Yes.
So there's a word for it in Kannada, kadmanshru, like, people who live in the forest, savages, who literally don't know how to speak or whatever, like adjacent to animals. And so I really thought like, okay, I'm doing something right with my campaign at least. And this is, cream of the world, top 1% who get admitted. And they have this mentality.
They have this belief that colonization was a positive thing.
Yeah. So you can imagine how bad the situation is.
Indeed.
Coming back to the results. Results are announced. And we follow this French presidential election style.
Okay.
So it's not first person past the post. You have to get 51% of the votes. And for that, what they do is it's a preferential voting style as well.
Yeah, right.
So you don't vote one person, you give preferences. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then people keep getting cancelled. And then the votes keep getting transferred until one candidate gets 51% of the votes. It's funny that every Oxford election at least goes on till 11 rounds of counting.
Okay.
And in my case, first round, first person, I was past the post by 54% of the votes. Every other candidate is getting 100 votes, 80 votes, 10 votes, 12 votes. So it's literally like, wiping the floor with their faces. And the turnout is huge. It showed that, people who become disillusioned with the political process because they don't see themselves represented also choose to come out when they see representation.
Yes.
So I really felt like the whole, agenda of decolonization actually did that for so many people who were there, who felt absolutely disillusioned by campus politics. They felt compelled to come out and vote. The voting percentage was through the roof. They've never seen a voter turnout like that. They've never seen a majority like that. So it was a thumping success. But I think all good things and bad things come in extremes. I win, there's celebration, headlines, Indian headlines, foreign headlines, everything's carrying the same thing. Indian woman becomes first Indian woman takes up charge as president of the University of Oxford. Students' Union, huge margin, historic election. The British High Commissioner to India tweets, living bridge between, it becomes a diplomatic success to many. So all of that is happening. And I start getting hate mails.
Okay.
Some of the hate mails are so unspeakable, comparing my face to a black horse and, so many expletives, I can't even, bring myself to say it. And if I would put it in the book, it would just be all redacted because it's just not sane language. And it's coming from all these anonymous handles. So my Instagram DMs are filled, my Facebook DMs are filled. And then I start deactivating my accounts, being like, okay, this is just too much negativity, sour grapes, it's just part of the process, let's just disconnect ourselves. They come to my LinkedIn. I then kind of try to, get myself off of LinkedIn. And then they start emailing me on my university email ID.
I see.
So, university email ID, you need to keep checking for your classes and this and that and everything. All your projects are there, all your files are there. So that starts getting filled up to the brim. And that shows you that all of the people are not the general public hating on you. It's actual University of Oxford students because they have access to the address book. And they're using your address and using a separate domain to email you. So that clearly drew the lines clearly for me. Then all of these, hate mails start coming on confession pages. So campuses have confession pages.
I see.
All campuses have confession pages. So these are places where you can anonymously post something. It's usually used when a guy likes a girl. They keep saying, hey, that sort of a thing.
Okay.
But then that starts getting populated by we hate Rashmi posts, which is very unusual for a confession page on any campus. And then these hate mails start converting into accusations.
Okay.
Accusations like anti-Semitic, racist, transphobic start cropping up. So they're like, oh, who did we elect? Like, she needs to be brought down. She's anti-Semitic. She's racist. She's transphobic. She's Islamophobic. She's this. She's that. And then there's nobody looking for explanation whatsoever. These labels are so severe, Abhijit, especially in a in a situation like a campus where everybody wants to be woke, where everybody wants to say the right thing, where everybody wants to be the harbinger of justice, stand up for righteousness. They really don't care why someone's being accused of something. The accusation is itself enough for them to set out on a personal crusade to personally ensure that the person being accused is permanently banished from society, and that their woke agenda and their purpose is fulfilled.
Right.
Gives them that high, and I think the conditioning is such that it gives them that sense of satisfaction that they did something worthwhile with their time and with their platform. So people start coming after me. There are one or two people who are trying to find out why this is being said, because okay, you need to now take this mainstream, right? Like confession pages have their own cycles. So now people are interested in writing articles about this, but they want to substantiate this somehow. So they start contacting all kinds of students who are willing to speak against me.
Okay.
And oh my God, the explanations which have come up to substantiate that I'm racist or transphobic or anti-Semitic was so petty. It's like the boy who cried wolf. You keep crying wolf and then people stop caring. So it basically reminded me that we have done the same with labels. We have resorted to sticking labels to everybody so much without any premise that we have vilified people so much, and we are actually degrading the value of these labels. Because racism is a real problem. But if you start accusing everybody of racism, then it's going to lose its value, and the fact that racism is a real problem is going to be downplayed in society. So I saw that happen when I realized why I'm being called a racist or a transphobic or an anti-Semitic. Let me maybe bring up one of the accusations, anti-Semitism. So they said, in 2017 she posted a picture at the Berlin Holocaust Memorial. It's a very respectable photo, and in that photo she said, this memorial casts a hollow reflection of past atrocities. Reflecting on it gives us the power to move on, hoping for a better future.
Okay.
It's a very respectful post. I'm standing very respectfully, dressed very respectfully, says that the Holocaust was a terrible thing, and then going to memorials give us a hope for a better future. But then they said that sentence as a pun, casts a hollow reflection. Casts a hollow. So it's a pun on Holocaust, and that's anti-Semitic.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's all in writing,
I see.
I think that's the best part about me. None of it was he said, she said. All of these people put it in writing. So I have proper proof to show that this was why they were accusing me of all of this stuff. It's like this, Abhijit. If you're in school and you're supposed to write an essay, okay, and you mug up essays, you're told, okay, these are the 10 topics which can turn up for a 10-mark essay, and then you're the lazy kid. You don't want to mug up all 10 essays. You just pick 2 thinking, okay, Bhagwan, let these 2 turn up, and then you pray, and then you learn only 2. And you learn an essay maybe about a horse, but then for your bad luck, the entire essay you're asked to write about a tree. So then you write about a horse, and then you say that the horse was tied to a tree. And then you expect full 10 marks.
Right, yes.
So this is something like that. You're looking for ways to find offense. You're looking to find offense, and you're looking to outrage. And the need to outrage is actually sending you on an expedition to find, to look for offense.
And manufacture stuff.
Stuff. So when the incentive is to outrage, and you're manufacturing, offense to outrage, it just becomes such a toxic environment. And that's what happened to me. My entire vilification campaign was literally based on that.
I see.
Okay, so far so good. The vilification is happening. You can blame the global sort of woke movement which is happening, which has conditioned young people to find some kind of value addition in seeking outrage, seeking justice. Okay, fine. They're imagining offense, they're manufacturing it. Okay. The cherry on the cheesecake was when a University of Oxford history professor got involved.
Okay, who's this?
He teaches history at the University of Oxford, and he's of Indian origin.
He's of Indian origin. Lovely.
So that literally took the cake for me. And he writes, Rashmi Samant, the Hindu president of the University of Oxford Students' Union, accused of racism, transphobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, comes from Udupi, which is the hotbed of Hindutva and far-right Hindu forces.
Okay.
her parents, so he used an image in that, this thing, and he found out who my mother was by breach of, code of conduct of a faculty.
Okay.
The code of conduct for a faculty is to not delve into the personal details of a student.
Right.
And he completely breached that minimum thing which is expected of every faculty across the world. He breaches that, finds out who my mom is, stalks my mom.
Stalks your mom?
Yeah, on
Okay.
Facebook.
Okay.
Really, really stalks her. Goes back 3-4 years in her postings on Facebook.
I see.
And finds a picture of my mother and father with a Facebook frame which says Ek hi nara, ek hi naam, Jai Shri Ram.
So what's wrong with that?
So it's apparently a war cry, and
It's a
that
war
my
cry.
parents are terrorists who support the demolition of a mosque in India.
Okay, that sort of thing.
That sort of thing. So Jai Shri Ram is a war cry which was used during the demolition of Babri Masjid, and hence my parents are terror adjacent. So this was the entire story that was spun. And there was another anecdote which said, it's actually very funny. It said her undergraduate degree is from Manipal University. If you go on that website, you will find a picture of the supreme leader, Modi. So you can guess who funded her election. So this was where the cliffhanger was.
Wow,
left.
that's quite a connection then.
And it's funny. I was also baffled. I was like, why is Manipal putting up a picture of Modi ji? It's unnatural for universities to put up pictures of, prime ministers on their website. I go up to the website, and then I realized every university in Bharat has that get vaccinated, get this thing poster which the government of India has mandated everybody to carry everywhere as a social precaution.
Right.
And there's a small picture of Modi ji at the bottom right corner of that poster.
Okay.
And it's uniform. You can find it in every gully, nukkad. You can find it in a hospital. You can find it in a primary health center. You can find it in university websites. And it's mandated for everyone. And that was taken as substance to, vilify the place I got my undergrad degree from. It was used as premise to say that, oh, they're connected. He's funding her. Can you imagine the incredulity of the accusations being made?
So this was done by a professor of Indian origin.
Yeah, who teaches history at the University of Oxford.
And I'm guessing that person wasn't Hindu?
It's funny. So there was a post whilst I was president. Okay. So when I was president, there was a lot of Hinduphobic comment that was coming up. And one of the Hinduphobic comments were actually made by him. It's also in the book. So this was when I was president-elect. And then it said, there was a picture of Saraswati Ma, an idol, and he said that he used to break Saraswati idols as a child, and that it has in no way affected his studies.
I see.
And that Indian people are very stereotypical people who go behind Saraswati Puja and do not actually get a proper education, and that's why we don't have our Einsteins and Newtons.
Okay.
And that's why our universities are ranked, have no ranking whatsoever. It was completely factually wrong, because I think IITs are ranked very well. And then he said it's not in the top 500 or whatever. Indian universities are top 500 right now. So it was completely factually incorrect. We had Takshashila Nalanda, so it was again factually incorrect. And he was also factually incorrect because a lot of these discoveries we know now are rediscoveries of what the Sanatan Dharma has professed always. So it was completely factually incorrect, but it was just a what do you say, like a vilification process. And then the title of the post said atheist. Okay. And then when he got a lot of flack for writing against me on social media by the Bharatiya people, he said, I am a Hindu. Okay. And then she's Hindutva.
Okay. So
there was a complete, 360-degree rotation from atheist to Rashmi, the Hindu president, to then, oh, no, I didn't mean Hindu. It was just a slip of tongue. In fact, his post ended with, tell everybody University of Oxford is not ready for a Hindu president. That was the ending of the post.
Is a professor supposed to get involved in these matters?
Well, you tell me.
I don't think
so. Any sane person would tell you that they're not supposed to get involved.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, they're not supposed to get involved. They're not supposed to make comments like these. But I don't know if you've been following the news right now, how the heads of Harvard and all of the Ivy League universities, the kind of statements they're making.
Yes.
So unless and until the narrative is something that needs to be told, is, accepted out there, they don't care if it's the right thing or the wrong thing. All they care about is sounding politically correct and being acceptable to the masses. So wherever the public opinion goes, they that's where they go. And wherever this whole woke movement goes, that's where they are.
Right.
So whether something's right or wrong
is immaterial.
Yes. Had the same post been made about a Muslim girl, the outrage,
absolutely,
kind of response would have been completely different. The university would have shut down, the university would have apologized, it would have prostrated, it would have done all kinds of things to ensure that the wrong would be undone.
Yes.
And this is not one-off things, Abhijit. At the 2020 Oxford Diwali dinner, which one of the colleges, I think Christchurch College, hosted for all of the Hindu students. For dessert, they served beef gelatin.
Okay.
And they got away with saying, it's okay, in the spirit of Diwali, let's all forget and move on. The chef wasn't fired, the person in charge, nobody was held accountable. Can you imagine the same thing being done for someone else?
No.
And I think the Hindus who go there as well, not everybody, I don't want to vilify everybody and put a label, but more of us than not are okay with this kind of treatment that we are given. There's this still, pre-colonial slave mentality that, we were the chosen slaves. Look at others, they're not even slaves. So there's that differentiation which comes in, and they're just happy to be on the table. At least Christchurch gave us food on Diwali. Let's be thankful. Even if they're throwing beef at you.
Right, yes.
As a slap on the face. It's okay.
True, yeah. Many of us have this attitude.
Yeah.
Yes.
And at a Hindu festival, at a Hindu dinner, you dare to do this. And there's no outrage. I think we are to blame as well. There's no outrage. Nobody's outraged. And the response is also equating that lack of outrage. And it's been normalized so much that, you see the effect of this on the ground, affecting real Hindus in Pakistan and Bangladesh, where their persecution gets normalized due to the fact that it's normalized everywhere that Hindus are not persecuted, and more often than not, they are the villains. So that entire narrative,
that's a narrative that's
seeps down, seeps down, and real people are paying the price for it somewhere. So for me as well, it is a very comfortable position. I'm being harassed, okay. I'm being threatened, okay. I have a few death threats, okay. But a Pakistani Hindu has a,
sword over the neck. Yes.
So it's more acute than that. So I can still afford to, brush this entire thing under the carpet, apologize, go back, and sing the same old colonial prayer, but that is going to have a effect on some real life out there, and we do not recognize this because nothing's in the mainstream. We don't know about it. Ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
So that was the whole situation. And then the minute he makes this post, it has normalized the fact that, okay, it's okay to hate on Rashmi, let's all come out in the open because a prof is saying it. So we don't have to use anonymous handles anymore. So people start putting out elaborate statements saying, we are deeply ashamed of the actions of the president-elect, and this and that, and you won't believe it. There were 3 societies, the Oxford India Society, Hindu Society, and South Asian Society, which are not even affiliated to the University of Oxford. You wouldn't find them on the University of Oxford, published clubs. You can find an Oxford Quidditch Club, but you can't find there is an Oxford Quidditch Club where kids run around with brooms between their legs. Even that features in the official list of clubs. And 2 of these clubs weren't there. And they put out a statement saying that, they're deeply ashamed of what I did, what I said, and nothing about this professor who's saying deeply Hinduphobic things.
Yes.
Who has this entire tendency and who's been non-stop since I've been president. And then they put out a statement, and that statement is carried across all the news platforms. So the amplification capacity that these people have is also there. So the entire institutional bias of the media was something I was faced with firsthand. Here there's a history professor who's outright saying Oxford is not ready for a Hindu president. Not a single headline says University of Oxford professor says Oxford's not ready for a Hindu president. Like, he's putting out a statement out there. And then you carry statements of student clubs which are not even affiliated to the university as if that's, written in stone.
And it's interesting how they use Indians to vilify Indians. Indians in positions of power. It won't be a white guy who'll say that about you. It's going to be an Indian who
It's going to be an Indian who says it. And all the others are just, watching and, empowering these narratives. They're the ones who are picking with silence and picking what to amplify and what not to amplify.
Exactly.
So they're all there, playing the team.
So none of the other professors condemned what this guy said?
No, nobody said that publicly. Nobody came out in public to condemn what this person said. Nobody. But to be fair, the science faculty at least had my back. They fought tooth and nail behind the scenes. And they ensured that no one's going to say that, oh, let's kick her out, let's withhold her degree, let's, give her low marks. Because we had essays towards the end of the semester and they could very well say that, oh, your essay is not at par, and I wouldn't have any recourse.
Right.
I could just be literally failed. But then I graduated with merit and right on time, right on schedule. And they ensured that at least I didn't get completely excommunicated. And they lobbied with the University of Oxford to give me security because the death threats were crazy.
I see.
And it's one place I think we vilify India way too much. One bad incident and it's hitting the headlines. The grooming gangs, the stabbings which happen in the West, which happen in the UK, which happen in every shady corner. The crimes are huge and the people getting away with it is larger. So there's no proper mechanism to control these kinds of crimes and it's not mainstreamed. Bharatiya people still think that this is the most unsafe place to live. But let me tell you, when I was there, I would walk with keys in between my fingers. So scared that, I can just literally poke someone in the eye should they come and hold me from behind or from front or like accost me. And I don't do that in Bharat. I don't do that in Bharat. And unfortunately, it's India, it's Bharat who is vilified and given a berating for being an unsafe place.
That's the power of narrative, isn't it? The narrative is manufactured through media and academia and whatnot.
I think it starts... they say, right, a crooked intellectual can, destroy mighty kingdoms. And I think Hali writes it in Persia, in one of these Persian poems he writes, Wo Deen Hijaji ka bebak beda. It's a very nice poem where he says that the mighty king Deen Hijaji, so powerful, somebody so powerful that he's crossed 7 seas, he's conquered every land he set his eyes upon. But he came and he drowned on the banks of Ganga. So this is something which is in Persian history. You'll never find it in any of our history books. Our history books are so adept at saying that invaders came, we threw our weapons and we were whatever, under Mughal rule and British rule since then. We are never told that we fought for centuries on the go and then came a point when we were defeated. And we were defeated how? We were defeated when the narrative was set against us and we were divided amongst our own people through crooked intellectuals who were introduced into our system because they realized they can't defeat us by their power. A Persian poem says it there. He says that we couldn't do it by force, so we had to use crooked intellect to go about it, to go about the destruction or even, conquest of the sacred geography of Bharat. So that is the underlying essence. It's crooked intellectuals who, fell mighty kingdoms.
Indeed.
And the power of narrative against Bharat, the Hindus, the people of this land is so huge, so profound, the impact, that it starts, I think, with history. The way history is written by all of these victors and all of these people who had a monopoly on it. The second book I wrote, I actually introduce it as Until the Lion Learns How to Write, Every Story Will Glorify the Hunter. Absolutely. That's what's happening right now. So there's a glorification of the hunter. It's happening in all of the history. The history then gets reinforced by academia. Then the academia gets amped up by media, any kind of distribution.
It's a close-knit ecosystem. Yes.
When the media, creates this whole narrative, then the politicians start picking sides based on what the popular narrative is, so that they can get the people behind it, and they understand that the people are conditioned a certain way. So then you have an entire society acting a certain way based on an agenda set by people who had the worst of intentions about this land.
That's right.
And here we are.
So how long were you at Oxford? How many years?
So I did a master's.
2 years?
So I was there for a year and a half.
A year and a half. And you were president how long?
11 days.
That's it. And then what happened? They removed you from presidency?
They didn't remove me.
Okay.
That's another popular narrative they try to reinforce. This is another thing about the power of narratives, okay? The left never stops. Even if the highest court of the land declares that something is right and wrong, they will never, leave their narrative. Even after the Ram Janmabhoomi verdict, they haven't left their narrative that, that it was a wrong verdict. Similarly with me, they keep saying that, oh, she was kicked out, oh, she dropped out, oh, she ran away. No, I resigned on the 11th day as president-elect because the death threats were humongous. The administration was turning a blind eye, and there was no, support system. I was alone, and I was just surrounded by an impossible situation. I thought if I have to fight back, then I have to give up something. 2 steps back, 10 steps forward. So the immediate thing for me to do was to resign and then to fight back.
Okay.
So I resigned. And then I got the university to respond to me. I wrote to the University of Oxford, I wrote to the police in the United Kingdom, reporting it as a hate crime. I wrote to the Crown Prosecution Services. I wrote to everybody I could find alone. And they did the typical thing, brushing things under the carpet. Oh, we are out of office for the next 4 weeks. Oh, it's Easter break. Oh, it's this break. Oh, it's that break. Out of office, out of office, out of office.
I see.
They tried to, harass me into giving it up. And it was at a point where I was still doing my master's. There's no pause on that, right? You're still studying.
Yes.
You're mentally disturbed. You're still studying one of the toughest courses ever. You're still delivering the same things other kids are doing. A course that people do fail during normal times. You're going through a terrible time and you're still kind of going through all of that. And then you have an administration which is turning a complete blind eye, which is trying to gaslight what you went through, which is trying to, normalize what you went through. Some of the conversations I've had, I mean, these all come under confidentiality clauses, so I can't name them, but the way they've belittled what I went through,
I see.
The way they have put me down, my self-worth down, it is something, I mean, I wouldn't wish upon the worst of my enemies. It is that psychological warfare where you try to break a person into giving up. The police, what the police did to me, I've actually written about it in the book. And I spoke out about it in the public. I write to the police saying, okay, it's a hate crime, this and that. Okay, they're like, okay, we investigate it. Okay, we'll speak to the person. We put together a report. They had to get the report signed. And I told, okay, I'll come down to the police station at St. Aldate's and I'll have the, report signed. And I will coordinate with you and I will come in so that you have it ready and you're there and, all of this is happening. The person knew where I lived because they came to, collect my statement from there and everything. And I said categorically, I'm not home today. I'm going to London to get my second vaccine shot.
Okay.
Categorically. Today is a Saturday. I'm going to London to get my second vaccine shot. I'm not going to be home. I'm going to come in tomorrow and I'm going to give you a call beforehand to schedule it. The day he knew I was not on home, he turns up at my doorstep with the entire cavalcade.
Okay.
And before this, they're all turning up in plain clothes. When it really matters, when you really have to, show authority that, okay, the police is with her, you turn up in plain clothes. And the one day where you just have to get a sign from her, you turn up with your entire police gadi in, pura uniform. You come up in full uniform. You turn up on my doorstep and you're ringing the bell continuously. I lived in a home with 19 other people, so it was college accommodation. So we all had our own rooms, but it was 19 people from different, this thing in a huge Victorian era mansion, which is college accommodation.
Okay.
People are all doing their own thing, and one of the people who takes care of the home, she's like the head of the house. She comes out and the police is like, where's Rashmi Samant? and she's kind of nervous, like she doesn't know what's going on. I mean, this is a terrible tone. Has Rashmi committed a crime? Is she on the run? Is she wanted? Is she what? And then she's like, okay, no, what happened? Then they're like, no, we need to talk to her. And then she's like, can you let me know what it's about so I can talk to her? Can you call her right now? I mean, you have my number. Why don't you call me yourself? Why are you making my housemate call me, and why are you forcing her to call me? She's calling me back to back to back, and I'm in this line to get my vaccination. My phone's in my bag. I don't see it, and I never pick up the call. And she's scared shitless. Like she's threatened. She's scared. She doesn't know what's going on, and these people are intimidating her in a way into making her feel like there's a fugitive in the house. And then they tell Rashmi that we came and let us know when she comes back and this and that and everything. Okay. Why are you creating that kind of a scene in my house?
Yes, right.
And then they go away. And my housemate, she tells everybody about what happened in the kitchen and everything, and everybody knows about it. And I come back and I'm made to feel like a fugitive in my own home. And then I do explain it to them that, oh, whatever. But of course, they're not going to buy the whole story, because the police is police. And, a girl who's been in a very questionable situation for the past couple of months, they're not going to believe everything she says.
Right.
So I was made to feel like a fugitive in my own house. Any person would have broken down and just thrown away the case at that minute, being like, I can't deal with this anymore. And this is when you're simultaneously handling a police university investigation. You're simultaneously speaking to the Crown Prosecution Services, and you're simultaneously being harassed online, and you're simultaneously also pursuing a master's from the University of Oxford, and you just got your vaccination shot. So all of this is happening, and you're miles away from home, thousands of miles away from home. You have no family in this country. It's your first year in the country. You've never been there before. You're completely uprooted, and you're being subjected to all of these things. And I've read a lot about this later on, that how the police uses intimidatory tactics, and these are all lawful, but at the same time very unlawful to get people to drop cases and everything. And that happened to me.
Right.
And terrible things have happened.
So you went through all this because you, an Indian Hindu girl, dared to become president of Oxford.
I think it was a mix of things. It was because I didn't bring diversity to the table at their terms.
Their kind of diversity.
Their kind of diversity. Right. The kind of diversity which brings color on the website. The kind of diversity which keeps screaming, access, access. I'm so happy to be here. See, I'm here. This is a great place. This place accepts everybody. And, okay, decolonization is slowly becoming popular on campuses. There are, discussions of decolonization, and they like people who bring these things, but they only like it as long as your idea of decolonization is restricted to hosting a decolonization week where you invite people of maybe 10 different skin shades, you throw a luncheon with maybe food from everywhere in the world, you hang a couple of flags, and then you say decolonization, this, that for a week, and you go home.
Right. Nothing real.
Nothing real. Nothing real. Yeah. It's just empty words. As long as your decolonization is, restricted to that, and as long as your representation access is restricted to you just being a person of color, happy to be there, you know, parroting the lines that they're giving you, that's okay.
Right.
The minute it becomes serious, the minute you're actually bringing real change, which is real decolonization, is real representation, is real access, and it's about really a brown person, a Hindu person, a Bharatiya person, from a former colony coming up and doing something, creating change. That becomes the problem. So it was a combination of all these things, and I think the Hindu identity, due to its vilification, was the easiest thing to vilify me on.
Right.
I'll be very honest. I was born in a very devout Hindu family. I come from Udupi, which is a temple town. But it's never been a very strong part of my identity. My faith is very important to me, but it's been very personal. I've never I've never done any activism based on faith, or I've never shared any faith-based posts online. It's never been public. It's just been a very personal thing. I'm going through something. I pray to Lord Shiva. I go to the temple. I find my peace there, It's just been that kind of faith. It's never been on the lines of, oh, Hindus are being mistreated or this or that. In fact, I didn't even know. I heard the word Hinduphobia days after I resigned.
I see.
I'd never heard that word before in my entire life. I didn't know how bad the situation with the Hindu refugees in Pakistan was. I'd never, read about it. I'd never known. And I was at the University of Oxford. I would be someone who's reading news and this and that and everything and would have to know about these things. For God's sake, I was somebody with a subscription to Washington Post and would get all of her news from there.
Right.
So I was that kind of a, person. And then all of this happens. And I will tell you, it was nothing about my identity which was overtly Hindu that they vilified. It was just because the Hindu is easily vilifiable identity. They will do it to you. Doesn't matter how much you disown your Hinduness or own your Hinduness on a public platform. If it's convenient for them to get rid of you, they will use it as conduit to do it. So all these people who claim to be, we are so this and that, it's going to come to them as well. And everyone's going to, bear the consequences of the normalization of the vilification of the Hindu, of the baseless vilification.
And once you resign, who becomes president?
It's interesting. So there's 3 months of outrage. Ceaseless outrage. People are going crazy. The Indian government takes it up. There's a discussion in the Indian Rajya Sabha where they say, how can an Indian be treated like this? It's a conversation between Minister Rashmi Samant and Jaishankar, which becomes very popular. The Karnataka Chief Minister writes to the Chancellor of the University of Oxford saying, we fund an entire scholarship here. And what are you doing with one of our students? So everyone's out there, everyone's writing, everyone's taking a stance. The university conducts by-elections during those times, 3 months later. And the outrage is still on full burner. And it's interesting, 300 votes are cast. Just 300 votes are cast. And in the first round, there is an American girl with an Indian heritage. And there are a couple of European boys. So it's not an Indian, it's an American girl with an Indian heritage. It was 3rd, 4th generation, I think, Indian in America, with a Hindu sounding name. And in the first round, she loses to the, white guy, to Yanis. She's lost the election to him by a couple of votes. They do 11 rounds of recounting. And then she goes past with 3 votes.
Oh, really?
And she's declared president. And she uses her platform to say, there is no Hinduphobia. Look, I was elected.
How nice. Lovely.
Right? She uses her platform to discount the harrowing experience a Hindu had. And this is about a time the Crown Prosecution Services are this close to closing in on this entire case. And they come up with the perfect cover-up.
There's no Hinduphobia.
There's no Hinduphobia. See?
So this never happened.
This never happened. See? We elected another Hindu.
There you go.
And all of the girls' posts before that was, an American in the UK faces this, that and everything. And the minute she became president, an Indian in UK. You're not Indian, sorry. You're American. You have an American passport. You cannot co-opt what an Indian goes through, what a Bharatiya person goes through. The baggage that a Bharatiya person has. What the disadvantage that a Bharatiya person has because of the global neo-colonialism set up by the West. You cannot compete with that. And you cannot misappropriate someone's journey like that. But that was done and that was normalized. And that was taken in the news. It was put everywhere. And when this book came out, this book was announced first. It was announced in the first week of August. And it was only available for pre-orders. No one's read the book. And the sales would only start towards the end of August. And just the minute it's announced, it becomes very popular. 5 million insights. Everyone's retweeting. Everyone's ordering, sharing screenshots. And this girl writes on this, that this book is a work of fiction without even reading it. Without even reading it.
I see.
That is the level to which, we are gaslit in this world. That is the level to which Hindus are just gaslit in a minute.
So how did this book happen? This happened after you left Oxford?
This happened whilst I was at Oxford. So I was keeping a journal.
I see.
I was going absolutely crazy with everything that was going on. And it was hard to separate right from wrong. Hard to separate my conscience from what is being said about me. It's easy to internalize things, right? When everyone's saying the same thing and vilifying you. I started keeping a journal as a thing, and then I realized, see, everyone's going to write articles which is very convenient to them and their editorial. Everyone's going to toe a narrative which is beneficial to them and their country.
Yes.
No one's going to tell your story unless you choose to do it. So this book happened. I thought there needs to be something out there which tells facts like it is, which puts all of the proof together. And if you see, it's just emails and correspondences and this and that, and you can piece the story together with it. It's not he said, she said, I felt. It's not that typical narrative where I felt discriminated, I felt like I was pushed out, I felt like it was Hinduphobia. Read what they said. It is Hinduphobia.
Right.
Literally. So it's completely documented, and I thought, we need to do this. Unless we do it, every story will glorify the hunter.
Indeed. So let's talk about the second book. What's it about?
Well, it's about
the one that just came out.
The one that just got announced. I don't know what people are saying about it.
We'll see.
We put our phones on airplane.
Yeah.
So it's called Ram Janmabhoomi, the inspiration for Hindu resurgence. I do believe that the Ram Janmabhoomi story was pivotal for the Hindu community to, research from centuries of subjugation, from centuries of obliteration. And I think a temple is the very root of our, community. It forms the very basis of our community. It's a conduit between us and the universe. It's a portal. So the biggest sign of oppression is to destroy that temple and to put up something in its place. So I think that is a biggest mark of subjugation. And when we effectively declared that this is not okay through a struggle of 500 years, and that entire 20 generation struggle came to an end, I think that's when the resurgence started. We believed that we can come out of the subjugation, and that the battle is not just uphill, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's plains at the top of the hill. So that was that moment. And I believe we don't write enough, Abhijit. We don't document enough. We don't tell our stories enough times. For every lie that's told, we need to repeat our truths 100 times, 1,000,000 times. So that's why I believed that I need to write this book. And it's connected in a way because they vilified me for the Ram Janmabhoomi, right? They vilified me for the Ram Mandir. And a message needs to be said, put out that that's not okay as well. That you cannot vilify somebody based on Ram Mandir. You cannot tell a convenient story that a mosque was demolished. No, a temple was demolished in a, sacred land of nativity.
Yeah.
Where, a god was born. This is a huge thing, and you cannot discount that, and you cannot reiterate something which is so sacred to an entire community, and you can't come up with your own narratives around that. So I think it's connected to what I went through. I seriously feel like I don't write things come to me, and it won't come to me unless it's something that's connected to me. So Hindu in Oxford was something that was connected to me, and I think the Ram Mandir also was connected to me the minute it was used as basis for the entire vilification that happened. Also, I'm the daughter of a car sevak, so I think it's just sort of a generational thing that you're just born with that level of awareness about something. It's only a matter of time before it comes to the peak of your consciousness. So it's always somewhere in there, and maybe what happened to me triggered that. So it's mostly that, and the book, I think, is also a story which reiterates that for our community, really, our degeneration has been on many levels. We degenerated during invasions. Physically, we degenerated. The temples were gone. Everything was gone. But there was also a degeneration of morals. We internalized things like the ghungat because we were too scared that they would pick our women and take them away. And so many social evils which came in. Female feticide came in because then women are not safe, and they'd rather not have daughters who are then raped and taken away than and not have any female daughters at all. Then the sati system came in. So all of these things then converted into social evils. I believe that reclamation is not just a matter of ego, that, oh, we won up the invaders 100 million years after they left. No, that's not it. It is also a quest to reclaim those values which truly make you a special community, which truly make you Hindu. That sense, that community which truly gives agency to women. I think there is no philosophy out there in the world which gives real agency to women. Patriarchy is inherent in every philosophy of the world except the Hindu Dharma. In Hindu Dharma, the woman is Shakti.
Yes.
And of course, the Shakti and the male and the female, they're not equal, but they're equivalent. They're equally important. They're not the same. I think what this entire, crusade against patriarchy, the feminism, what it gets right is that it tries to superimpose the two and make it the same. That there's no difference. No, they're equivalent. They're equally important. But they're not the same.
Right.
Shakti is, the Hindu Dharma defines it so beautifully. There's Shri Ram. Shri is the Shakti that comes before everything. You have so many names which start with Shri, Shrikant, Shri Raj. Everything is, puts the Shakti before. Everything, the entire Dharma sees Shakti as the start of life, as the start of everything. And as the energy which can actually destroy evil in our society. So the creator and the destroyer of everything good, the creator of everything good and the destroyer of evil. So that's the kind of pedestal on which we put our women. That's the kind of pedestal in which our theories and philosophies are. But what has invasion left us with? It's left us with a broken system of, practices which we are holding on to from these invaders. So we need to let go of all that as well.
We do, yes.
And the minute something like a Ram Mandir comes up in its, spot of nativity, that sense, that reclamation starts coming a full circle. So it's not just something physical, it's philosophical as well. And I don't think, that Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, these are not far-fetched ideals. It's not something we read and we're scared of, or it's not something we read and we idolize. It's something we practice in everyday life.
Yes.
If you look at the fundraising of the Ram Mandir, it's literally women, men, people who are literally giving their din ki kamai. There's a Golgappa vendor. There's a very these stories all recorded from the time the collections went on, and I brought in some of the stories. There was a Golgappa vendor, and he was crying actually that, why did you come today? You should have come on a Sunday, because on a Sunday I earn a lot more and I could give you more. So it's literally everything he has in his pocket and he's giving it.
Yes.
And he's sad that he can't give more, and he's begging to them to come on a weekend so that he can give more. Does this not remind you of the squirrels who are literally rolling in the sand and doing their bit to build the Ram Setu?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Because the contribution might be nothing, but then everybody has that sense that they need to do something because it's the right thing.
Yes.
Because everybody believes that Sita Ma is being wrongfully imprisoned. So that is why we are doing this. We are not doing this because we believe we can build a bridge.
Yes.
We're doing it because we believe that what we do is an act against injustice. So that profound sense that we need to be part of something correct, something right, something that is a part of justice is what drives us. Not the end goal that, the goal is to create a bridge or to create a fortune or to do this. That materialistic, small-minded goal. No, we have that altruistic goal.
Yes.
And that is there everywhere. There was a destitute woman who just had 20 rupees in her pocket. She was homeless on the streets, and she sees the people with the shirts and everything going around, and she calls them. She's like, what are you doing? They don't even approach her because they think, ki we shouldn't approach her and ask her for money. She calls them saying ki, "Are aao paas aao, kya kar rahe ho?" And then they explain कि राम मंदिर बन रहा है, this and that, and हम उसके लिए पैसा इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं. And then she gives $20. And then they see that this is the only thing she has, and they refuse to take it. They're like, नहीं माँ जी हम नहीं ले सकते. And then she's insisting that they take it. And then they're like, we'll only take 10 rupees. You keep the other 10. She's still insisting. And then they make up a reason saying कि हमारे पास पर्चा सिर्फ 10 रुपए का है, तो हम सिर्फ 10 ही ले सकते हैं. Then she says, 2 पर्चा बनाओ. मेरे नाम पे और मेरे मरे हुए बेटे के नाम पे. So these are the kinds of stories, Abhijit. These are stories and these are, you know, sentiments and these are values which can move mountains. These are kind of values which is literally sustaining our society irrespective of the kind of barrages that we are subjected to. Be it narrative wise, be it marketplace wise, be it anything. The odds that we're up against are huge. No country would have made it. We are still making it every day irrespective of that because of values like these.
Right.
And values like these often get swept under the rug. They often get carried away by these huge narratives which just seek to vilify us.
Yes.
Which keep saying, oh, the constitution was burnt on this day because, you know, the mosque was destroyed. No. Do you know what happened for 500 years? Do you know the 77 battles which were waged? I think most Hindus also don't know our own history. They think 1990 started, 1992 happened, and Ram Mandir is this thing. The day the Mandir was destroyed in Ayodhya, the battle started.
Yes.
There have been 76 battles, and the 1992 was the 77th struggle to reclaim. So it has been incessant over a period of time. And they haven't given up. It's like Sisyphus, right? Sisyphus is condemned to roll a boulder up a uphill. And he knows that he's never going to make it and that he's condemned to do it eternally.
Forever, yes.
Forever. But he's still doing it. That was what the Hindus were doing. They were eternally doing it, even if they could see no light at the end of the tunnel, even if they could see that the entire society is so against us. It's just one person against many. They're still doing it. There are people who didn't wear a chappal for generations until there's going to be, you know, Ram Mandir there. There are so many stories. It is that infallible faith that we will make it despite everything.
Yes.
The story of the Hindu people, the story of the Bharatiya people, the story of courage, determination, resilience. This is what that entire movement has been, and nobody knows anything about it. Of the 77 battles, be it of the struggle that started since day one, of the uphill challenges which were there, of everything really that happened. And I do believe that, you know, the whole thing, I think this analogy is very popular right now in mainstream. It says good times create weak people, weak people create hard times create strong people, and strong people usher in good times. So we're in good times now, but we should ensure that these good times don't start creating a weak generation.
Yes.
So the only way to ensure that is that we remember what happened. The Jewish people never let go of what happened during the Holocaust. Every kid knows the story. Every child has read about it. But what about our people?
We suffer from amnesia.
With like instantaneous amnesia, that too.
Yes.
The moment something is done, we just move on to, you know, celebration. You know, 500 years, it's 490 odd years, is literally between 20 to 25 generations. And for them, it's still injustice. They didn't get to see it. So the concept of justice is also questionable in this, you know, situation. How do you define justice? Really?
Yes, right, yeah.
When 20-25 generations haven't seen the fruition of their work, didn't get to see something, it's permanent injustice for them.
For them it is.
So I think the least that we can do is that when we go on a pilgrimage to Ram Mandir, we at least remember 20 to 25 generations before us who fought relentlessly for this day to come. And how many of us are going to do that? We're just going to click pictures and we're just going to...
Selfies and stuff.
Selfies, and then we're just going to treat it like another temple. Arey Bhagwan, mujhe ye de do, wo de do. Meri ye kara do. That's it.
That's typically the way it is for most people.
Because they're colonized.
Yes.
Because they don't know better.
Yeah.
We shouldn't vilify the people because they don't know better. Because they're put in an environment where there are no books, there's no popular culture, there are no films, there are no narratives which tell them the truth.
Yes.
They're just bombarded with this false notion, and that false notion normalizes this kind of behavior in a place that is so sacred and that has, you know, seen so much and that holds so much for our community. And the minute we realize that, we don't take anything for granted. That's the minute you rebuild. And I think we also have this whole guilt trip that the Hindu Dharma is so altruistic that it's so much about giving that we often don't take a stand for our own people. We will take a stand for somebody who's from another community because our dharma, because our dharma says that. Our dharma says that, you know, nothing wrong has to happen out there. We will take a stand for everybody. Even I will take a stand for, you know, if something wrong is happening with somebody from the Muslim community, Christian community, any community, Jewish community, something wrong is happening, our people will take a stand, irrespective of their, you know, personal ideology. If something's wrong, they take a stand. But when something wrong is happening with our own people, we get into this guilt conscious that, you know, we kind of shrug away from that responsibility. We should take a stand for our own brethren as we would for someone else. And that is, I think, very unique to our community. In every other community, it's the other way around.
It's the other way around.
They take that stand for their community, and their stand for other communities are called into question. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But with ours, it's completely the other way around. And it's heartbreaking that we wouldn't care for refugees in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, and then we think, you know, free, we come up with these free Palestine slogans, we come up with, you know, we support everything else out there, we support Ukraine, but, you know, we can't see what's happening in...
Right next door.
Next door.
Yes.
In Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in what happened in Afghanistan.
Yes.
And this is also there, you know, the minute we retreat, what happened to former Hindu states? They were Hindu states. They were
Afghanistan,
Hindu
Pakistan, Bangladesh, all
of them were 100% Hindu. Today,
Afghanistan was Gandhar.
Yeah, it was Gandhar. It's 0% Hindu today.
0%.
So that is also there. And what it does to collective society is also there. There are, Abhijit, this is not known, there are no Hindus in countries with no semblance of democracy. North Korea has no Hindus. Afghanistan has no Hindus. But you can find a little bit of every community in these countries, but no Hindus. So the lack of Hindus also brings forth anarchy in countries. It brings out the worst in humanity, and Hindus don't thrive where there's anarchy. So everywhere there's a Hindu, there's no anarchy. They make sure that there's a great thing. Interestingly, you know, when I was researching the Ram Janmabhoomi book, it's so strange. In Ayodhya, there are, you know, scores of mosques. I think at that point there were 70 odd mosques, 77 mosques. Not one mosque was touched. Not one mosque was touched.
Right, indeed, yes.
Had these people been, you know, bloodlust and, you know, it was all about carnage, it was all about showing another community down, wouldn't they be touched?
Of course, yes.
No, not one was touched.
Interesting, very interesting. I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah, not one was touched.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need, there was no reason for it.
There's no reason for it. And it tells a lot about these people.
Yes, of course.
Sometimes, see, when the intention is also right, sometimes the foot soldiers get carried away. But every foot soldier had that clarity of thought in their mind, in their soul, in their, you know, in their breath, that they are not here to create carnage or take away something. They're just here for Bhagwan Ram and his land of nativity. That's it. That's it. So that is something we often underplay. We come up with this grand narrative of bloodlust, carnage, they want to create violence, violent people, Hindutvavadis. What did they do?
If that was the case, they would have vented the fury on all the mosques.
They would have done that. They would have done that. And it's actually normalized in Western theologies as well. When somebody gets angry, they go on a rampage. They don't stop at, with one thing.
Yes.
Even if it's the right thing to do. I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones fan.
Yeah, I am.
What did Daenerys do? Like, she went on a rampage.
With the Dothraki.
Yeah, like she went on a rampage in the end when she finally got to, you know, whatever she wanted.
King's Landing.
King's Landing. She just went on a rampage, killing innocents.
Yes.
It's almost the story of every battle for justice in the face of adverse injustice. They get carried away, and it gets justified as well. But here, nobody got carried away. Nobody. Because there was this clear rooting of thought, philosophy, and clarity, and that purity that we are not here to harm anybody. So that is there. And I think there's also lack of accountability, Abhijit. So many of the car sevaks who had died, they were tied to stones and thrown in the Sarayu, so that their body also doesn't come up, and, you know, they can't be.
How many died? Do we have a figure?
We know that, you know, someone's brother died, someone's son died, someone's father died. And we know that it's larger than what's put out.
Larger than the official figures, for sure.
So it's in the late hundreds, as far as I know. So
Okay.
it's touching up to a couple of this thing. But I don't want to put a number because all we know is that his son died, his brother died, and we do have records of all of this. And the kind of attacks we are under to even other people can get away with just making up facts. Our people, even if we have facts on our side, even if it's a 0.1% here and there, the entire premise gets broken down as a false narrative. So we don't even want to get there. But it's definitely so much worse than the official numbers. The official numbers are a few tens in this thing here and there. It's so much worse than that. And we know that someone's sister died, someone's brother died, someone's father died, these were all upstanding citizens.
Yes, right.
And with so much hope, and it's actually very heartbreaking what happened to them. And the very people who ordered these firings, they were never held to account. Never held to account, and everybody got away with what they did.
Yeah.
That is the tragedy of our system, Abhijit. There is so much immunity to people who do unspeakable things.
Yes.
And people who are out in society trying to do some good, they get attached with all the labels that they shouldn't be with. And we create this cycle where the entire idea of justice is really being dictated by people with ulterior motives.
Yes.
So then what are we left with? So this book is like a squirrel's attempt, Abhijit. I'm not trying to, go out there and, change the entire thing. It's just that squirrel's attempt in the hope that, other squirrels activate, and then we have more Hanumans and more of the stronger people come in with reinforcements, and that the Ram Setu is built. But our intention is that something wrong was done, and that we need to do something to right it, and we need to be part of the story of justice. And building the mandir in itself is not that part. Ensuring that people know what really happened, ensuring that the vilification doesn't continue, ensuring that we do not forget, ensuring that we do not fall into self-destructive cycles. That, I think, is the real challenge. The fact that we reclaim Hindu Dharma for what it is, that is the real challenge. And I intend to start that kind of a thing with this book. It's actually a very contemporary take. We talk about the matriarchs. We talk about, blood, sweat and tears. We talk about, there's a comprehensive list of every temple that was demolished and a mosque was put in its place.
Okay.
Of every state in India, with districts alphabetically. So that is also there.
Okay.
To show kind of like the expanse scale of
the scale, yes.
And there's also a list of temples which were obliterated in Bangladesh in the weeks following 1992.
I see.
What the Hindus in Bangladesh and Pakistan faced because we retook Ram Janmabhoomi, which was rightfully ours, the kind of vendetta they were subjected to. So that is also there. I think that never gets said. What price some Hindus had to pay. The price that the Hindus have paid is immeasurable. It's immeasurable, and it's all lost. But there are some reports. It's just a matter of bringing them together and kind of writing it. So there's a little bit of homage to them as well, and the sacrifices that our Hindu brothers and sisters made in these unfathomable conditions. It also talks about the Hindu identity, really, about how we are all beyond jati, varna, caste, language, and everything, really. How people, it's about doing the right thing. It's about justice for us. It's about restoring order, and it's about being in a productive cycle. It's about seva. It's about paropakara. It's about giving. And it's not of that self-centered approach that, I'm here for myself. And that's this thing of every other theology, right? Hindu Dharma looks outwards. It's about how can I utilize my lifetime to be of seva to others, to be of paropakara to others. But others is how can I use, everything that's out here to entice my senses.
Everything is a resource.
Everything is a resource to please me. So that's the entire approach which comes in. So I think it's also a little bit about that, and how that intention is also reflected in everything we did, That moral came out in the way we fought that court case as well, in the way that the response came in as well. So it's literally that narration out there.
All right. So what's next for you now?
What's next for me? I don't know, Abhijit. Like I told you, it comes to me. So whatever comes to me is what's next for me. And I think at 25, a little bit of uncertainty is good.
All right. Thank you so much for the great work you've done,
Thank you.
for writing this book and the Ram Janmabhoomi book. And here's to great sales.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please share this on your Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp so that this podcast reaches a wider audience.